What's up everybody, it's Hosey. I got a lot of requests on my last video to cover this story, so today we're gonna go over kind of this American Mulan during the Civil War. So let's get into it. And her name was Frances Elizabeth Quinn, and she immigrated here from Ireland with her parents when she was around 3 years old to a small town in Illinois called Lamoille. My French brain wants to say Lamoille, so if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize. Shortly after they had arrived here in the US, her little brother Thomas was born in 1848. However, when they were both quite young, their parents passed away, and they were separated into two different families. So Frances ended up with the Reno family, and Thomas ended up with a family that's last name was Coakley, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, but they were from Ireland as well. Some evidence indicates that they were neighbors to their parents when they were alive, but we don't know exactly for sure. Now, at the age of 12 years old, she was sent to a convent in Wheeling, West Virginia in order to be educated, and she came back to Illinois when she was about 16 years old. When she returned home, she was informed that her brother, Thomas, had enlisted into the 52nd Illinois Infantry Regiment at the age of 14 years old in order to fight for the Union Army. Now, Frances, being both worried for her brother and having this fear of abandonment because he was the last living member of her family, she decided to enlist into the Union Army as well. Now, when Frances enlisted, she had disguised herself as a man and adopted the name B. Frank Miller and was sent to a 3-month unit in Indiana. And I don't know how she would have done that. I don't even know how you would shower without people figuring out who you were. I had to take off my sweatshirt because it's getting too hot here. The story is getting too intense. And so within a month, I believe, after enlisting, she was found out, discovered by some soldier. And so she was kicked out, and then she enlisted again into the 2nd East Tennessee Cavalry. This is where some of the details start to get a little murky. And so she was discharged from the cavalry, I'm guessing because she was discovered yet again, and then she enlisted once more into the 90th Illinois Infantry in August 1862. This woman is persistent. Like, wow. Within a month, she was discovered and discharged, and she gave her name to the colonel that had discovered her as Eliza Miller. And this is partially why it was so hard to kind of research her story, because she used so many different names, and through documents and records, it was hard to trace where she went. But this is the general gist of the story. And so we're starting to get this pattern of her resilience and persistency, because Frances enlisted yet again, long enough to fight at the Battle of Stones River on December 31st, 1862, where she was actually shot in the shoulder and discovered because of her injury. Discharged again. Now, after healing from her wounds at Stone River, she ended up going to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where she enlisted into the cavalry yet again as a teamster, or basically someone who drives teams of horses carrying supplies to wherever those supplies are needed. Now, while on duty, she actually came across another woman that was disguised. Her name was Sarah Bradbury, under the alias Frank Morton. And of course, when you find another woman kind of in the same circumstances as your own, you can't help but kind of party. So they had both gotten drunk, fallen into a nearby river, and under the records, they were discharged under disorderly behavior. However, officers that had discovered them in the river asked how the women knew each other, and they refused to say anything. It was at this point that they were actually discovered as women, and by General Sheridan's orders, they were given dresses to wear and the means to get home. And when they were asked of their actual names, Frances went under the name Ellie Reno, which was her surrogate father, Jesse Reno's, last name. At this point, she returned home, but in April of 1863, she discovered that her little brother Thomas had been shot and killed during the Battle of Shiloh. Now, being grief-stricken, she decided to enlist yet again under the name Frank Martin. I don't know why she kept choosing Frank, but I guess she got used to it at some point. And eventually she started to gain in the ranks and became an orderly for General Jeremiah Boyle. Now, an orderly is basically someone who is removed from all other duties in order to tend to generals or other commanding officers. Now, General Boyle was impressed by her performance, and she soon became a favorite of the 25th Michigan Voluntary, that is a mouthful, the 25th Michigan Voluntary Infantry Regiment. God, the 25th Volunteer Infantry Regiment. There we go. Unfortunately, another soldier had discovered her to be a woman, and she was discharged despite being a favorite. This is when she wrote a letter to President Lincoln begging him to let her serve for her country. And this is what she said. I do not wish you to think me bold as I write to you wholly out of love for my native country. I am the true blue, and for that noble flag I am willing to die. I have been in the army for nearly 1 year, and I wish to see it over. I am willing to do anything to aid or assist the government that lies in my power for my country. I have lived, and for my country I will die. Ellie B. Reno. Now, we don't know how successful that letter actually ended up being. However, it was found that she was actually offered a job. So Frances was actually sent to General Burnside, who then put her into the care of an officer's wife and was very helpful at some Louisville hospital. It was during this time that she actually had her first marriage. She married a Captain Stewart, but unfortunately he died soon after the wedding. And in October of 1863, she decided to enlist into the 90th Illinois Infantry Regiment yet again under the name Frank Miller, so it's kind of like the same as she was in the beginning. I don't know how you can enlist so many times. I wonder what she was like in terms of her emotional state. If she was just kind of like, who cares? I'm just gonna go and fight for my country. She didn't care if she lived or died. I wonder. Comment down below what you think. So in one of the battles, she was actually captured by the Confederates in Alabama, and she was forced to march to a prison camp in Atlanta, Georgia. That must have been grueling and difficult. Oh my gosh. Now, being the badass that she is, she attempted to escape. However, she was recaptured because she was shot in the leg. There's evidence that suggests the calf or the thigh. Either way, it's a severe injury. There's tons of infection and gangrene starts to develop. Now, because of the severity of the wound and the infection and gangrene, she was required to a 6-month extended stay at the hospital. So she was discharged from the hospital, and she was actually exchanged for a prisoner of the Union Army in February of 1864. From there, she received her payment and moved to Ohio until the end of the war. On August 12, 1866, she actually ended up marrying a Matthew Angel, who was a soldier for the 2nd Ohio Heavy Artillery Regiment. And so they ended up having 2 daughters, Maggie and Mary. And unfortunately, Frances Elizabeth Quinn passed away at the age of 25 due to edema, which is basically intense swelling of the flesh. And so that is the story of Frances Elizabeth Quinn, one of many women who had disguised themselves as men in order to fight during the Civil War. I consider her kind of this symbol of resilience, persistence, nationalism, and just standing up for something that you truly believe in, no matter what the stakes were. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit about the untold stories during the Civil War. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give this video a like, and if you want some more content just like this, feel free to subscribe down below. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. As of 2nd Ohio Heavy Artillery doing, and feel free to God.